Thank you for joining me today. My name is Leticia. I'm the pastry chef, and today I'm going to be making our cow lamb chocolate chip cookies. If you've ever been to one of the events that had cookies or RaV'es Cafe, we always give out chocolate chip cookies as with the meals. I'm going to be making our chocolate chip cookies for you guys today, okay? Now, don't say I've ever given you anything, because these cookies are very dear to me, and everyone that's had these cookies pretty much know that these cookies are it. Now, I am going to make this from by hand. I'm going to say from scratch. They are from scratch, but by hand. Not everyone has the fancy mixers that we have, or even the hand mixer. So this can be something that is made by hand. You just have to have that old elbow grease, and I do have some elbow grease here in this arm. So it calls for 8 ounces of butter. This is a pound of butter. I'm just going to break this in half, and it is room temperature butter. What I find in the bakery when we're making cookies, a lot of times if you've ever worked in the bakery, I will have you measure everything out and I'll mix it, kind of deal. And even with measuring, I can tell when something's off. But I find when mixing cookies, if you put the sugar down in the bottom of the bowl, it sort of works out a little bit better versus putting your butter down in the bottom of the bowl. Little steps like that do actually make a difference. So in here, I've got a combination of both brown and white sugar. And that's something that makes our cookie a little bit more unique, is that a lot of chocolate chip cookie recipes you'll see only call for brown sugar. We do use both brown sugar and white sugar, okay, or granulated sugar. Now again, I'm going to mix this by hand, and actually I'll probably just give because the brown sugar, you know, if you use brown sugar, it's got that molasses in it, and sometimes will hold its a little ball there, but it's fine. When you mix it with the white sugar, the granulated sugar, it just loosens right up. Sometimes too, you'll have those little sugar balls, which is created by some moisture that might have been in the bag, and then you got brown sugar that's hard as a rock, and it was because there's the moisture in there. If you ever have your brown sugar and you open it and it's hard as a rock, and you're like, oh man, I'm throwing my sugar away, I don't have brown sugar. Please don't do that. Just if you got any bread at home, I usually in the bakery, when I know the brown sugar has been left open, it's because it's hard, and then I'm ranting around the kitchen, who used my brown sugar, they left it open, it's hard. But I really don't have to make a big deal about it, because if you take a piece of bread and you put it in your brown sugar the next day, or really in a matter of hours, it will take the moisture from the bread and absorb it, and then your brown sugar will be just as fluffy as before as you bought it from the store, and I promise you not, it will. So when you got brown sugar and it's hard, don't throw it away. Take the bud in of your bread. If you like to eat your bud-ins, then keep your bud in. Just put a piece of bread in there. It will loosen up, okay? So I'm going to take my half of this butter, okay? And the way I know that's 8 ounces, because this whole stick alone is 1 pound, which is 16 ounces. And I'm just taking half of it for 8 ounces. If you do have a mixer, you can mix this at home. In this case here, I'm going to just mix it by hand. First thing I'm doing is breaking up the butter into chunks. Now, there is a difference. If you melt this butter and you make your cookies, yes, they'll turn out. But I promise you, there is going to be a textural difference from making cookies with melted butter versus making cookies with a softened butter. Okay? So, we're going to mix this in. Just break it up. It's going to take a little time because, again, I'm doing it by hand. And to be honest, I couldn't find the mixer to go into the thing, and I was done looking, so I'm going to just make it by hand. When I first started making cookies as a kid, we didn't have a mixer. We made that by hand. So, just a matter of breaking up that butter and that sugar and creaming it together. Now, I could have used a whisk. Whisk is so much harder to get everything out when you need it out of the whisk. So that's why I prefer to use a spatula. Scrape down the sides, and I got a little get there here. So we do make the cookies. This general, if you just don't put in the chocolate chips here during the season for Christmas, we'll do a white chocolate cranberry cookie. We've done the salted caramel cookie, and all of those cookies are made with the same starch as the chocolate chip cookie. The exact same. I just tell them, don't put the chocolate chips in. Let's add this and let's add that. Or add, instead of 10 pounds of chocolate chips, add 8 pounds of chocolate chips and 2 pounds of pecans. So you really can play with this recipe. Okay, it goes a long way. So many different ways. You can just do no chocolate chips at all. I have a friend who I don't really question our friendship, but I question sometimes because she doesn't eat chocolate. And I was just dumbfounded when she told me she didn't eat chocolate. She just does not. And she asked me if I can bake, but she loves the cookie dough. She said if I can bake her some chocolate chip cookies with no chocolate chips, and I thought, oh, you onto something, girl. And it was delicious, really. So I'm almost where I need to be with my batter here. So we're not going to get it that whipped that you typically would if you had a hand mixer or a standing mixer. But we're mixing that butter and that sugar. You see how that's nicely incorporated. If you see chunks of butter, you're not quite done yet. I'm not quite done yet. I'm saying that to myself. Okay. I don't know if you can tell the way I'm holding this spatula. I'm holding the spatula this way because I'm controlling what's in here. A lot of times you'll see when someone's cooking and it flies everywhere. It's just, I like to control what I'm doing, and this holding it this way will help me to control it. Okay. So look at that sugar and butter mixture here. When we make the sticky buns, that's basically it. It's butter and sugar, and I use some salt and vanilla, which we'll be using salt and vanilla, and yeah, butter and sugar. So from here, okay, once you got your butter and your sugar creamed, you want to add your egg and your vanilla. Now you can already have your egg on the side. I'm going to actually crack the eggs here. You have your eggs here waiting. When we make the cookie recipe during the season, people are blown that I say, hey, I need you to crack 44 eggs. Like, 44 eggs? You need 44 eggs? Yeah, we need 44 eggs. That's just a small recipe. Okay, so we've got this here. And the rule of thumb with making cookies is you get your sugar and your butter mixed up, then you add your egg and your vanilla, then you add your dry ingredients, which is going to be the flour here. Let me move this over. Just regular AP flour, some baking soda, not baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Now, if you're using I won't add all the salt because, actually I will. This butter was unsalted. If you're using a salted butter, then you don't want to use quite as much butter. This was an unsalted butter, right? Yes, unsalted butter. Okay, so that's going to be my dry ingredients. I'm going to pour this in 1 egg at a time. So this is going to, of course, have some of the vanilla, but 1 egg. And again, if you've had these chocolate chip cookies, if you've been to one of the Cal-Am parties, sometimes the sales offices will get cookies, and I get that the grills use grandma cookies. I'm not above grandma's cookies, but We know whose cookies taste better. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to say that. I ain't trying to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm just saying that. So look at how that's already coming together. Once your egg is mainly all mixed in, then you're going to add the rest of your egg and vanilla. Okay? I've had one guest come in and ask if I could make her cookies bigger because her and her husband wanted to make chocolate chip ice cream sandwiches, and I did do that for them. And I'm sorry, I didn't explain why I was making the chocolate chip cookies. It's because this week is National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. And I thought, you know what? Let's just go ahead and give the residents what they want and give them this chocolate chip cookie recipe. Okay, it's getting fluffy there. The egg, make sure you've got it all around the sides. Throughout my time of mixing this, you got to keep scraping down the sides. Okay? Got to scrape down those sides. You're almost there. You really are almost there. Once you get to this point, you can't tell me you can't make anything by hand anymore, because you can. All these new gadgets and stuff they have, they didn't always have, and people were making cookies back then. So I've got my mixture. I'm going to just mix this up a little bit because my baking powder is stuck on top. Mix this up a little bit, and we're going to add this, and let's just say three settings, okay? Get that extra flour off my hand. So, 1. And this will get a little hefty, so you have to have that elbow grease because you're adding that dry ingredient, okay? And if you like your cookies crispy, then you can just add a little less flour. You'll get more of a crispy cookie, okay? It doesn't look like it's going to mix, but it does. It does. Give the dough some credit, okay? Okay. More. I recently baked these cookies at home for my kids, which I don't do a whole lot. And the way the cookies are sitting on the counter, that's why I don't do it a whole lot. Because they don't appreciate it anymore. You know, when they were younger, they did, but now they're in high school and they're, you know, too good for mommy's chocolate chip cookies. So, it's okay. Okay, mixing this in, and then we got one more batch left of the flour, and we'll be good to go. It's going to take some elbow grease, but we'll get there. Okay. If you don't have elbow grease, then find someone that does. A lot of these young lads got a little elbow grease these days. Okay. That's that. And then once we get that mixed in, we will add our chocolate chips. Now these ones, let me double check. Yeah, these are semi-sweet chocolate chips. You can use milk chocolate if you like milk chocolate. If you like dark chocolate, you can use dark chocolate. If you like those mint chips. If you like butterscotch chips, we've done this with butterscotch chips and pecans before. It really is endless on what you can and cannot do with one basic recipe. It's endless. So bear with me here while I get this last little bit mixed in here. Okay. Towards the end, it is going to be a little bit tougher, but that's just because you got to get that flour mixed in there. But it will mix in, okay? And then that butter, when you bake it, it's going to be delicious. Okay. Almost there. Again, you see how I'm gripping it and folding it in. Now when you go to bake these, Your recipe may call for 5 to 7 minutes, 8 to something, and you open the oven and you're like, oh, they're still pretty light. Well, they will still continue to cook in the pan once you do pull it out the oven. So do try to be mindful of that. I like to make sure that the cookies are crunchy around the edge and chewy in the center. Ooh, that's my favorite, when they're crunchy around the edge and chewy in the center. So I'm almost where I need to be. Oh, little dough came out. And then we'll add the chocolate chips. And then we'll have, or should I say you'll have, RaV'es chocolate chip or Cal-Am's chocolate chip cookie dough recipe. Okay, so I'm going to take my chips, stump it in there. Again, if you don't want to add chips, you just want the batter, you can just do the batter. If you want to add some nuts in there, so however the amount of chocolate chips you omit, make it up with something else, you can do that. So if I wanted to add some walnuts in here, I would have just not used as much chocolate chips, and add your walnuts. So it's really endless. Okay, cookie dough is endless. They say don't eat raw flour. You know, if you want to eat cookie dough, you should bake the flour first and all that fun stuff. But I mean, I remember eating dough raw all the time, sneaking it, number one. When you sneak the dough, it's even better. Let me just grab a sheet pan here and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so the best way to get the most universal size with your cookie dough is to use a scoop. That is the most common standardized way to get the same universal shape. Okay, he's using a scoop. This is the scoop that we use for RaV'es cookies, for Cal-Am cookies, is this one. Now people have requested again for larger cookies, we would just use a larger scoop. This one here is a 2-ounce scoop. Okay, and you can let the dough sit in the cooler. You can wrap it up tight, which I'll probably wrap this up tight because I'm not going to let it go to waste. It's good cookie dough, and the cookies go. And the scoop is not completely flat, but it's got some edge to it. Okay, my pan is just the same parchment paper, not wax paper. You can use wax paper, but you're going to get some smokiness, and you're going to get a little more spread because it is wax paper. So parchment paper you can buy at the store too. And there you go. Get those nice universal rounds. Someone asked, how are you getting your cookies so round? I scoop it. Just scoop it. That's all. I'm going to just do 6 on this pan because I'm going to save my dough and use it then. Okay? So here we have RaV'es chocolate chip cookies. I'm going to pull some out of the oven here. Well, not exactly out of the oven. They came out of the oven. I wrapped them so they can stay fresh. And here we have the opening it. Oh my Lord, the smell is outrageous. Again, if you've been to RaV'es Cafe or any of Cal-Am's events where they've had cookies, we do make our cookies in-house with a lot of love. You can put these in between some vanilla ice cream. You can warm them up and eat them with ice cream. You can eat them by themselves with some milk. So many ways to eat good old chocolate chip cookies. So thank you for joining me for National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. And try the recipe, enjoy, or you can just come to the cafe or order it online when we open up next season. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm Leticia. You have a good one.